Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with symcotraining. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I would start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Okay, so we were talking about how the golden hour is so important. In the real world, how do we make sure that golden hour happens? Okay, so again, let me ask a thick question then. All the cars are coming in first thing in the morning, okay? Your workshops, you work in lots of different dealerships around the world. You've got lots of great run dealerships up there. All the people want to drop their car off first thing in the morning. How is the tech going to do? They see it in our video on all the cars there, get to contact with the customer early on. Do they bring the car in, just do the check of the car, do the video and bring it back in later? How do you do that? The logistics of that, Colin. How does that work in the real world?
You've got to separate the customer appointment from the car appointment. You've got to explain to the customer, yeah, you're coming in at 8 o'clock because you start to work then. I've got 8 ramps. so your car will be scheduled in over the course of the morning. And then we'll update you when it comes on the ramp. That's why we do the text. And then you'll get a video through from the technician. So the signposting statement we use is we confirm the payment method. So I don't have a script for it. We have a kind of list of checkpoints. So what's the payment method? Is it the service plan? Is it going to be card? Are you going to be looking at taking advantage of a drive now, pay later scheme? We then talk through the VHC process. So while they have vehicles with us, we're going to carry out a complimentary vehicle health check. And what we're looking for here is things that make your car, stop it from being safe, roadworthy and legal. If we identify any of those things, they'll be marked in red and we'll be in touch with you about them. So what's the best number? And that's where we get into the number, then the technician email address on there. Now, when you receive that through, you can actually auto-authorize it from the email. You don't need to speak to me. You can just auto-authorize it. If you have any questions, then you can get me on this. This is the best number for me. Now, if you don't hear from me, and this is a really important thing, guys, this revolutionises your service department. I see Darren's got his pen ready. Everyone listening to this should have a pen ready, right? If you don't hear from me, that's good news. And I'll see you at 4 o'clock as we've just arranged. That will stop all of your phone calls at lunchtime going, I'm just looking for an update. My car's been in since 8 o'clock this morning and nobody's phoned me. Oh, is that no good news, sir? Oh, the guy said that. Phoned in. Right? So if you look at the number of calls that come into a service department, see if a customer's phoning, in today's marketplace, a customer's phoning looking for an update, we have failed that customer. Absolutely failed them. Because we should have texted them, we should have got in touch with them. So if we set that benchmark of, if you don't hear from me, it's good news and I'll see you at 4 o'clock, because that means your car's not had anything that's made it unsafe, unroadworthy or illegal to drive. So it must be okay. And now you'll still get some customers phoning in, but you will reduce dramatically the number of phone calls that phone in. Generally when they're on lunch, your service advisors are on lunch, and your showroom host's on lunch too, and there's nobody answering the phone.
And then you've got a very unhappy customer because no one's kept me informed. Keep me informed, exactly. Keep me informed. Isn't that always the way? Hey, listen, I'm interested to hear you're setting the agenda. Everyone sets the agenda slightly different. Run through how you talk about the colours, and I love to hear this because other people listen to podcasts say, oh, we do it this way, do it that way. I love that, Colin. What do you got there, Darren?
I don't think it's that dissimilar. I'll spare the other detail that you need to be, but the lasting image I would always leave when when the customer's leaving is I want them to go away knowing what we use as the method to communicate that to the customer. So mine's pretty straightforward and simple, which is, while your vehicle's in with us today, we'll be conducting a complimentary vehicle health check. Hey, listen, most of the items should be green. They'll be good to go. If there's any amber items, what we're trying to do is just give you a little bit of an advance warning that they may need looking at before the next service. But listen, if there's any red, I'll be straight on the phone because we need to get those sorted out today. Is that okay, Mr. Bowkett?
Yeah, okay.
So it's very much the same sort of thing, but I can't stress how important it is to do it in the morning for a few reasons. Okay, the first reason is the colours drop into the back of our mind. Okay, I'm not saying the customer gets back to their place of work and going, I know how their system works, but we can, of course, when we make the vehicle health check, which will be the next one, we just turn that on its head and we say, great news. Most of the items were green. there's an amber item, it's a tyre. I'll talk to you about it when you come down later. It's not urgent. But there is a red tyre on the front. Now, Andy, our technicians, can get that done for you. It won't affect the 4 o'clock time that comes back to you. And it's going to be £140, euros, whatever you deal with. Can I go ahead and get Andy to do that for you while it's on the ramps now? And it's a straightforward kind of, there's how it works, and then there's the explanation off the back of it and the need to do it. It's so frequent that the drop-off becomes, we do a complimentary vehicle health check, or we do a health check, or possibly even sometimes we don't even mention it at all. And the danger there, of course, is the next phone call is, hi, it's Darren. Andy, our technician's had a look at your car and he's discovered all this work that he's doing. So it looks very underhanded. And, you know, if we're honest, some of the stuff can be, not because we are, but it can be underhanded. Years ago, if I had an oil leak, I knew I had an oil leak because I had a nice puddle on my drive. Okay, with the drip trays these days, I could be driving for quite a while without even knowing that I've got an oil leak. So the first I hear is from the guy on the phone or the lady on the phone telling me. The other point that I would make as far as that's concerned as well, when you're reporting that stuff, bear in mind what the customer brought it in for. They might have brought it in for a service and a rattle, and you're back in touch with them with a vehicle health check, which you're not going to be able to tell them the service is complete or the rattle's been sorted if your system's running robustly. But just let them know. Hey, listen, Andy, our technician's already on with the service. He's also going to get to the bottom of the rattle. I'm confident of that. But while he was there, what he discovered, and then we lead into the vehicle
I love the word
check.
discovered, not found there. Sorry, Colin, I cut you off there.
No, I was agreeing with Darren. It's such an important thing, and one of the things I encourage with our technicians is if it's in for diagnostic, we don't do a VHC on the vehicle until we've actually figured out what the customer's paid the diagnostic fee for, and he's went through the diagnostic process. The worst thing, you know, if you're grudging, you know, and some of our sites are 180 quid for the diagnostic fee, the Jaguar Land Rover sites. So you paid 180 quid, and all of a sudden you get a health check in, going, your tyres are this and your brake fluid's this, and you're going, well, that's not what I put it in for. So it's very much about bearing in mind, what is the customer put it in for? Let's satisfy that, and then we'll health check it once we've proven that we're actually talented and good at our job on there. So a lot of people get that confused, and it totally throws the customer, and they go mental. And particularly, as Dan was talking when we were opening up about the customers who've maybe bought their vehicle from a used supermarket. And that's their first experience of a manufacturer site, and then they just get they get the VHC. And what, you know, it's so critical that you go through the explanation of the VHC and how it works, because some people, they receive the VHC email and they go, Jesus, it's 1,900 quid for all this work, but there's, you know, £1,200 of it's amber work that we can put a timer on, you know, and that's. It's only X amount that's the red work that needs attention today. But if we've not explained that, they add it all up and go, put it into that manufacturer place, bloody hell, they wanted this. And we just look, you know, ridiculous. And so it's about tailoring it to what's that customer put it in for. And also thinking, you know, tyres is a great example where we go, let's price up the Pirelli P0s because that's what the manufacturer recommends. But the guy's sitting with, you know, land sale on there. So we're probably going to look at like for like quotes as well. Say, listen, the manufacturer recommends Pirelli, this is where they are, and notice that you've got land sale on there. Was that your choice, or was that the people that were refurbing your car to sell it?
Yeah, I guess say tyres is for me, it's just a big one, Colin. It's for me, it's the first point of defection I get where people leave a franchise dealership and they go to the independents. And the way it's dealt with is so often just so poorly. And I love to build in some sort of comparison. You know, when a service advisor says your tyre needs to be done, it's 180 quid or 180 euros wherever they are in the world, customers say, I'll get back to you. Of course, they want to go straight to Quick Fit and find out what's going to be there. Of course, Quick Fit's got some sort of Chung Lung ditch finder, some unknown brand as the cheapest brand. We're at 180 and they're selling it for 90. And of course they think, the main dealers, they're ripping us off. I just love to build in comparison and little things like, hey, Mr. Customer, our technician David, I love to use our technician's name, David the technician, David the expert. When he's inspecting the car, he inspected the front two tyres. Now, tyres got 8 millimetres when it's brand new. You want it all the way down that you've only got 1.4 millimeters until that's illegal. Now put that in perspective, that's equivalent to the thickness of the credit card. I tell you that because you're doubling your braking distance on a wet road. Actually on a dry road at 120 kilometers an hour or 70 miles an hour, you actually got 5 double-decker buses extra stopping distance. But then of course, I've taken the liberty of getting a quote for you from QuickFit. For the same tyre that Audi recommend, the Continental Sport, the Pirelli, fitted, balanced, disposing of your old tyre, they're a €180 tyre. Now we're £5 a tyre dearer, but the good news is David could do that as part of the service today, and it's not going to affect your pickup time at 4:30 this afternoon. Yeah. I love to nip in the bud their need to shop around. Now, of course, when customers say, well, I'll get back to you. Hey, Colin, did you need to get back to me about the price of that tyre? Or did you need to get back to me about when we could fit that for you? It's always price. Then, of course, your service advisor's got somewhere to go. Well, bear in mind, that's on the Pirelli, the same tyre that Audi recommended. But on this occasion, why don't I look at a lower cost alternative? Actually, we've got the Hankook or whatever it is for 120. Hey, Colin, did you want to do the Pirelli at 180? Or does it make more sense for you to put the Hankook on at 120? I mean, just get some sort of, I mean, tyres. Colin, again with tyres, you're talking about percentages there. I harp on that because I do feel it's dealt with still in this day and age. We just get it wrong so often, so often. How are you training your advisors to deal with tyres?
So yeah, percentage worn is always the way we communicate on there. So it's 80% worn, it's 86% worn. Yep. So the customer realises, because you say, well, the legal limit's 1.6 and it's at 3 mil. So I've got plenty left. Well, actually, you've got 1.4, which is the thickness of a credit card. We have a special tyre card. Yeah, show us that first.
Again, people listening to this, we know most people listen to this on the podcast, but Colin's holding up a video there, tyre card. Hold that up if you can there.
Yeah, so that's like a credit card. Tyre card, it's double-sided, so you've got your percentage wardens on the back there, following the red, amber, green colour code as well, so you can see, when does it need replaced today. And then miraculously, the card itself is 1.6 mils thick. So that's the legal limit. That's what you're relying on to keep you on the road.
It's not a lot when you look at it like that, is it?
Yeah, and it does. People go, oh, right. So it's really important. And then we've also got, that you can check your tyre depth yourself and take the card away with you on there. And we have a link to Tyre Safe. So it's not just the John Clark Motor Group telling you this, it's the tyre experts, Tyre Safe. They'll give you all the information to back it up.
Darren,
so it's that.
Is there a danger that we're crossing the line and scaremongering a customer? I mean, you talk about the grandma rule, don't you? Can you explain your grandma rule? What do you mean by that?
Well, the grandma rule's a really good one in dealership to use where there's a difference of opinion. If there's a technician that's coming along and they're speaking to a service advisor and they're not quite sure whether it's a red or an amber work to fall into, just take it over to grandma. If it was your grandma's car, okay, and she was about to purchase that car, would you want her to know about it? Or would you keep it to yourself? And if you're talking about amber tyres, you'd want it to be communicated that they're amber, but you wouldn't want somebody to try and sell her amber tyres. Likewise, at red tyres, yeah, you definitely would. It's a simplistic little rule, but it enables you just to kind of find what that should be. Should that item be red? Should that item be amber? And it kind of settles some of those sometimes conversations that go on of possibly grey areas on certain cars, because it's different. Somebody using their car quite frequently is going to need higher mileage. It might mean that they have to come back to you in 6 months. For somebody else, it might actually last a longer period.
Guys, so I'm cutting you off, Darren. I've got to tell you, my pet hate. Listen, we all drive cars. We get cars serviced all the time. Colin, within the group, I'm sure you're getting sorted. But my own personal car, having to drive out there, my pet hate is where people don't offer me things. Well, they don't, and I have to take the car back in 2 months' time, 3 months' time.
It's different to that. Can I ask you one question? Who in their world, from a convenience perspective, wants to bring their vehicle into a main dealer, to have their car serviced, to be told it needs 2 tyres, to then build time into their schedule, to drive away from that dealership, to go and sit in a non-branded place, drink a cup of Clicks coffee, maybe struggle with the old Wi-Fi connection, sit on a lovely couch that's already got grease on it for you and all of those sorts of things. Not the least of which, although they are deemed quick fit kind of operations. It's not quick by any means because there's no appointment system. So if you turn up, you might get in, but it's still a reasonably lengthy job. They have a duty of care. They have to go through those same things as we do in terms of the vehicle health check. But also the other thing is it could be people in front of you. So you could be there for an hour, hour and a half. You know, really the customers that we bump into in a main dealership in a manufacturing environment want to do that? I tell you the power of convenience to me, the one that brings it home for me is when I was growing up, I was a privy, obviously wasn't driving, but I was a privy to conversations of people who drive to different petrol stations to save a penny a gallon, okay? Now, if you're driving down the motorway, there can be up to 10 to 15p difference per litre, 5 litres in a gallon roughly. So there's that difference that people, you'd expect there to be nobody stopping on the motorway services. They're as busy as anything, okay? You go in there, you're going to pay through the nose for your fuel. Your meal deal's now jumped up from £4 to £5.50 or whatever. Your bottle of water's gone up. Everything is going to be more expensive. But we go in there because it's convenient. Yet we offer this one-stop shop of convenience, and we quite frequently forget to mention what we're doing, how we can do it, how we can sort it out. And I know Colin touched there on giving prices on the tyres of other people's offerings, which is really important because actually if you sit there and you know the price of somebody else's offering and you know it's £10 a tyre more, most of your people are going to go, for £10, do it. But it's fear that I'm going to pay through the nose, I'm going to pay ridiculously more that stops people going ahead. But then you also end up in the situation that having said no to you, I'm not going to swallow my pride necessarily and come back and go, well, actually, you were one of the cheapest and I want the main dealer to do it. You end up going to the quick fit, convincing yourself that, you know, I've made the right decision here. I didn't waste an extra X amount with the dealer.
Great friend of the show, Andy Williams, Colin. It always says, let the customer make an educated decision as opposed to an ignorant risk. And I suppose that's what it is, just let them decide. And too often I still hear service advisors making the decision for the customer. But Colin, this is to you then, sir. Can we not force a customer to the independence? If we're offering, you said before, you send through the vehicle health check to a customer, it's pre-priced, they can hit the button accept it, but there's 1,900 to work. They're not realizing that half of it or more is amber. Is there not a danger that if we over-upsell, we're going to force people to the independence?
You're cringing, Simon, you're using one of my banned words there. You know I don't use that horrible
I know
word
that,
there.
sir.
You've just baited me. So if you don't know, I never use that terrible word that Simon's just used there, beginning with the letter U. Because for me, you're pushing stuff to people that they don't want. With the vehicle health check, what we're doing is we're using our expertise to make sure that the car's roadworthy, safe and legal. That's the 3 checkpoints. And anything I'm reporting to a customer and recommending to a customer falls out with that. It means that the car's unsafe, illegal or unroadworthy. And I'll give you an example of unroadworthy where it's legal. So this was quite a few years ago. You've talked about having your own personal car. So I drove in my own personal car down. I was working with an independent training company and I'd been hired by a dealership and I'd booked my car in there for a service while I was there, right? Convenience.
Yep.
So I drive down, and I'm driving down from Glasgow to Carlisle and it's snowing, right? So I get down there and I know that my tyres are probably, going to need replaced. So it's in for a service. And then I'm expecting the service department to talk to me about, tyres at some point. There's no conversation. So 3 o'clock, because I've been training all day, I went up to the service desk and said, listen, has my car been done yet? I said, yeah. I said, how'd the tyres go on? Oh, the tyres are fine, yeah, perfectly legal. I says, okay, so what tread depth do they have then if they're perfectly legal? He says, well, wait a minute. I says, through, he gets it. He says, oh, yeah, they've got 2 mil. I says, all right. I said, see that white stuff falling from the sky? Do you know what that's called? He says, it's snow. I says, all right, what's the minimum tread depth required for a tyre to grip in snow? Because I've got 80 miles to drive home. He says, well, I don't know. I said, well, let's go on the Tyre Safe website and find out, Because the answer's 3 mil.
Yeah.
Right? So my car's unroadworthy. But the problem is, it's after 3 o'clock, you can't get my tyres.
No. No.
So I've got to book them in. So I phone the dealership I'm at the next day working, and they get 300 quid's worth of tyres off me.
Make sure you get the tyres there. The other thing, again, people to listen to this, something I'm loving at the moment, if a tyre's got 2 millimetres on it, okay, we know it's got 0.4 of a millimetre till it's legal, or it's 96% worn out. We know at 3 millimetres, okay, it's 1.4 millimetres, or it's 78% worn, okay? Now, I've always found at 2 millimetres, saying something's 96% worn out or 94% worn, that's nice and simple and easy. And I could get the sale. At 3 mils, I always found it harder. A man called Tony Sexton said, hey, but Simon, you know it's only 1.4 millimetres until that's illegal? Now, 1.4 millimetres is the thickness of the credit card. Now, I know you've got the John Clark group there, but service advisors, listen to this. Get the credit card out of your purse or your wallet. The card itself is 1 mil. The bumps on it is 0.4 of a mil. So when you look at it, it helps put a mind picture into the customer's head, okay? It's like 0.4 of a millimetre till it's illegal at 2 mils. That's equivalent to the bumps on a credit card, or it's 1.4 millimetres, it's the thickness of a credit card. When you actually look at the difference there, it's not like, I know, Darren, you do that with the tyre gauge and you show it up against the paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these are really powerful, using a digital tyre gauge to see the difference. But I'd urge anybody out there who's within the role, just refresh your memory of those distances. Because, you know, what we generally do is start on an 8 mil. So we start on 8 mil, which is what most new tyres have. Have a look at that. Bring it down to 3 mil. Have a look at that. You know, we're starting to get quite small. Then bring it down to 1.6, which is the legal limit. Then take it down to 1.4. And please bear in mind, when you bring it down to 1.4, that's the maximum notice that you're going to give somebody, because that means that the tyre's 3 mil. Okay, so above 3 mil, we won't be communicating as a red tyre. Below 3 mil, we will be. So it really is the absolute maximum that would be there. Now, one good stop on a motorway from an elevated speed, you could probably scrub most of that off as well. So it's a really good exercise just to refresh your mind of those distances and then communicate them. I often talk about that and people go, you know what, I wasn't aware of that. And I said, here's your problem though. You can't communicate the same way with a customer because most of the stuff that you're going to do is going to be on the phone. So you've got to find an easy method, and that's where the credit card was born, really, because we can all pictorially think straight away of the thickness of a credit card.
Yeah.
There's another one that this one always blows my mind a little bit, which is if you think of your dealership and you think of all of the amber tyres across a whole year that you've advised customers would need doing. So we didn't have any chance of doing it ourselves, but we've got this pool of amber stuff that's been identified that by definition should be done at some point during this year. Then you try and think to yourself, how many times have you taken a phone call from a customer that's booked in just to get tyres done? No other repair, but phoned you up and said, oh, do you know what? 3 months ago I was in here, you told me my 2 front tyres would need doing.
That would be once and never.
Most places it will fit on one hand.
We had 2 emails yesterday. It was strangely enough, right, unbelievable, because I knew I was coming on this today, and so I've been keeping an eye on the after sales emails coming in, and there was 2 yesterday. So one for Mini and one for a Jaguar Land Rover site, and I was like, wow. That's somebody who's communicated it really well.
Yeah. Oh,
to the customer. And
Colin, can we just put that into context? Across how many sites? How many thousands of vehicles?
43 sites, you know. And one of those sites has got 40 retail ramps in it, so they didn't get any. But it's in context. It's going to be the only 2 that I have seen.
But that service advisor has done a great job. Yeah. That has been communicated very, very well, hasn't it? Yeah.
And why are we jumping about tyres and going on about that? Because for me, out of the tyre safety, the road safety triangle, they're the most important component on your vehicle, the only thing holding you on the road. And the thing I use is you've got 4 bits of A5 bits of paper holding you on the road, because that's your contact point of your tyre.
I'd love everyone, absolutely everyone, to go on one of these Continental Days or Pirelli or one of these where they put you on the skid pan and they see the stopping distance. In fact, get every service advisor to go and watch the Continental videos where the stopping distances and the difference it makes with proper tyres or the cheaper tyres. And the grandma rule, if your grandmother was buying that car, would you want to buy a car with that cheaper tyre on it?
That's a brilliant video, the one with the golf. And
That's the one.
They have the Continental tyre, and then they have the Continental copy.
Yep.
And you see the difference in those black boxes flying everywhere. Whenever you show a service advisor that video, that grammar rule kicks in. They go, wow, yeah. Definitely. The other use for the grammar rule, well, I've got the mic, is quite frequently a technician says to themselves, would I replace it? Now, would you replace it as a technician, understanding a vehicle the way you understand with your skills, your tools, and your ability?
Colin, I'm going to cut you off there. That's like a builder. Does a builder ever finish his house? Does a painter ever decorate his house? You ask a technician, would they do it? Yeah.
So does he finish his granny's house? Of course he does, right? Does he finish his grandma's bathroom? Of course he does.
Yes.
So the grammar rule is that great rule for technicians to say, forget whether you would replace it. Would you replace it if it was your grandmother's car?
Okay, so I've got to tell you this war story.
Rule comes in again.
I've got to tell you this. There's a great group that we work with. Around the Manchester region, they've got a lot of Toyota, Lexus dealers. People probably know who we're talking about. I was in there one day. Darren was doing service advisor training. And one of the service advisors had left his car in the car parking area, customer's parking area, in this Mazda Lexus dealership. That's where they're doing the training. I said, give me your keys and I'll go and move the car just so we don't disturb the course. So I just ran into the technician there. The service advisor there is a great guy. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I got the service advisor. I said, took his car in and put it on the ramp. So I said to the technicians, can you do me a vehicle health check on this so we can use this later? Colin, I promise you, you've never seen so much red and amber in all your life, okay? You've got tyres there that are 2 of them below the legal limit. You've got brake lights out, bulbs are out on it. You've got the airbag warning light, you know, the SRS light, glowing orange, almost glowing a hole in the dash there. But guys, let me tell you, I noticed 2 child seats in the back of the car, young child seats. We then had a look at the league table. This group, they actually measure everything. What you measure tends to improve. And I promise you, this particular service advisor was right down, probably one of the lowest on any sort of, I'm going to use this word again, Colin, upsell, okay? But he's probably the lowest in the group there.
That coming a mile off.
But I think about that. If he wouldn't do that to his own car, when his children sit in the car, how can he sit there and convince a customer that I really believe you need to get these tyres done? They've got to believe it, don't they? But listen, we're going on here, so let's talk about this next week, and we're going to ask the listeners there, what do you want to talk about in the service department, in the after sales department? Is there anything specific you'd like to know, have ideas on how to do that? So get in contact with Colin McAllister at John Clark Motor Group, Darren Bedford at symcotraining, and we'll see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.